Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah rabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, we are still going on our chapter 4 of this book, and we have mentioned about how we are going to overcome the challenge today, a very severe challenge of tantrum behavior in children. Today we're going to discuss how within the laws of learning and conditioning we can actually educate our children, especially when they have very low attention span, especially those who have learning difficulties, they cannot have attention and so on. How are we going to develop, using the laws of learning, using operant and classical and operant conditioning, to give them the right reinforcement so that they would be able to have a higher attention span, and when they have higher attention span, then they can learn. If not, then they will be it's very difficult when you go into the educational system. They do not have the necessary attention span, then they become spoilers in the class, or they become the jokers, or they become those disruptive children with behavioral problem, because they want some sort of attention, but the attention that they get is from bad behavior, from punishment and so on. So this is where it is very important early in a child's life that we develop the capacity to be able to concentrate on any task. Alright? And especially if we understand that the children have a very low attention span, then we have to put a lot of time to give them the right reinforcement, positive reinforcement, so that they can learn and slowly pick up a lot of skills. I remember in my younger days that we learned a lot of things because we live in a village area where there's not much facilities, but we learn. For example, we learn how to make catapult, because it's very important to have catapult in those days, because if you have stray dogs or any wild animals, you can at least use your catapult to defend yourself. How to build catapults, how to find the right of wood, for example, this species called Tambusu tree, how to bend it, how to put oil over it, how to actually dry it using a small fire, how to put the rubber, how to put the leather, and finally you can build a catapult. But that is a process of learning from the elders. And there's many things in life. We learn about species of plant that we can eat, we learn of the dangers of certain areas, and so on. So those are the living skills that you must have a lot of attention span to pick up. But unfortunately, in the modern era, children are kept in the house. They were not allowed to go out because there are a lot of existential dangers because of, for example, kidnapping or violence or gang rape, whatever. There's so many things today that has turned topsy-turvy the life of carefree life of a child, in which they can have attention span over many things of living skills they should build within themselves. But there are ways in doing it, especially in a home environment and a school environment, and we must learn how to do it. So I'm giving you from the book an example. All right, conditioning process to increase the attention span of any children. That means especially children with attention difficulties, we must put more emphasis on them so that they can then grow up to have a normal, can go to normal school streams, and they can pay attentive attention to their lessons in their preschool, primary school, secondary school, and inshallah throughout their life. This is on chapter 4, human behavior and loss of learning, and we are talking about increasing attention span. Conditioning process to increase attention span. It should be noted that attention span is a learned behavior which can be influenced by the conditioning process. The attention span of people of all ages tend to vary a lot. For children who can only attend to a learning task for a few minutes or a few seconds, this can be a major problem. In this example, we have a 5-year-old child whose attention span is virtually non-existent, perhaps 2 or 3 seconds. The means used in this is to teach attending behavior in a variation of the old form of the shell game. This is the shell game where you put the shell and beans, and then you flip the shell around. All right. Now you use cups, and you can put some beans, green peas, and then you can put the green peas and then the cup, and you flick the 3 cups around, and each time the child is supposed to put some attention, and it's like a game, a play. Today you have a lot of games similar nature using video games. Also the same thing that can develop attention span. So assuming that you are using this type of game, you can develop a process in which you give a stepping, shaping process towards the reward. For example, the purpose of this example is to say this little girl is consider her to be successfully picking a cup with the beans underneath the reward. So how does you do that? So there are very long story here. What we do is that we can change the position of each cup slowly, just once. You do it very slowly, the 3 cups, and you put the beans underneath, and then you shift it, and you slowly, actually the child can really see where is it, just slightly. And the little girl more often is likely to choose the right cup. That will have been by chance. She would actually choose correctly about 1 in 3 times on the average if you are fast. If you are slow, then she will 1 in 2, and then you have slower still is 1. Every time she can get it correct. When she becomes quite confident, all right, that she already has selected the right cup, then you can increase the intensity. So the best effort is to put the beans underneath, and initially the level may be considered a baseline. So maybe once in 3 or once in 4 times she gets it. But as she gets better and better at identifying, you can even mark on one cup a red color, so that each time the bean is on a red color, to give her the conditioning necessary for her to find out. And she may be picking up only on the red cup, and each time she picked up on the red cup, the beans are there. So she get rewarded for it, and she feels very happy about it, and she feel very much happy to play this game. All right. As she get immersed in this game, then slowly you can remove the red paint or the red marking on the cup, and then you can develop the speed. And as you do that, you have, all right, what you do is that basically during the shaping process, it's best to have each response successfully so that it will be rewarded. If the gap between the 2 steps of the shaping process is too large, the behavior being learned could break down. So if you increase the speed in such a way that she feels frustrated, she could not find the right bean under the right cup, she would not want to continue playing the game, and the game is over. All right? So you have to give him or her, this girl in this case, the shaping process. All right, so just like painting the red cup, giving them a slow motion and developing her confidence and developing understanding, that the child will be able to pick up, not every time finally, but often enough that she is interested in playing this game. So this is where there are a lot of learning tools today in which there is always reward. For example, you can have number games, you can have word games, you have animals and pictures games, flashcards, and each time the child give the right answer, she is rewarded. And this must be the shaping process in which we develop their skills in terms of developing their attention span. And naturally, a child will have maybe 1 or 2 seconds or maybe 5 seconds of attention span, but slowly as she gets immersed in the number game or the alphabet game or the picture game or any of the tasks that they are given, as long as they feel they enjoy in the first place. Secondly, they are rewarded. Each time they are positively rewarded. For example, a child who is playing this game of number, she will have a flashcard, and the mom or the teacher will say, okay, then number 3, oh, you're good, you're smart, you're good, you know. Should she get rewarded? And then maybe she get, number 5 is wrong. Oh, doesn't matter, okay. This is what number? Number 5. So she said, oh, she can remember the shape, and she remember the words, and the way you play, you stimulate the VAK. You stimulate her visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. This is very important, because attention span development always covers these 3 areas. Okay, so each time you play the game, you must have to increase the attention span. You must have some sort of visual. You must have a visual stimuli. All right, you must have these visual stimuli all the time. So visual stimuli is in terms of color, pictures, cards, blocks, wooden blocks, Lego. So many of the things that you can do. But in the school of life, in the school of hard knock, our visual is when I was young, is basically nature. We play with nature. We go to the bushes, we see plants, we see how people farm, we learn how to use the tools, the changkol. We learn how to use, for example, very sharp instrument like the parang, because you can use that to cut a coconut. You are not given that immediately. You must learn how to, because if you do it wrong, you can cut your finger off. It's very, very sharp. So you have to learn, those are living skills. You must have a lot of attention, because if you don't learn all those skills, you cannot survive in a farming environment or in a rural environment. So all these things are input. You learn it from the visual stimuli, then you learn it from the instruction, auditory, and then kinesthetic. Okay, kinesthetic. This kinesthetic stimuli, all these stimuli is built into you. So this is where you integrate both your left brain and right brain, and your learning is always being shaped. So you have the shaping process, to increase your attention span. So it is theoretically very easy, but the kind of games, the kind of play that you are going to develop this child, the way you shape and mold them to become human beings, to become good human beings that have the necessary attention spans, and to become, inshallah, in future achievers in life. They must be able to understand this basic idea of how you develop, techniques, parenting skills, especially if you're going to be developing children to become the Caliph of Allah, his vicegerent on this earth. He must have attention span, the sense of dedication, the sense of joy, the sense of achievement, the sense of well-being, doing something that they enjoy. Because I was shaped that way by my mother, who teach me the love of reading, and becomes part of my nature until today. And I continue reading because that gives you the basic joy. Same thing, for example, if some of my elders have taught me certain living skills like carpentry. I was good at carpentry, and it was such a great thing that I learned how to do carpentry, so I'm good at carpentry. Or my love for fishing. Some of my elders taught me fishing, so I learned all kinds of techniques of fishing. For example, like casting the net. That's a very difficult task. You must have a lot of attention to learn it. And today, maybe if you take 1,000 narrations, maybe out of that 1,000, only one person can cast a net, because these skills are being lost. The younger generation only knows how to go to the shopping complex. They only know going to toy stores and buy some toys or buy some Lego or some Transformers, which is okay in a sense, but these are unnatural things. Living skills needs a lot of attention. How many thousand times did I cast a net before I get a perfect circle so that I can get a fish? That takes a lot of patience. Maybe it took me about 1 year to perfect the skills. But once I have that skill, today you give me a cast net, for me to cast in the sea or in the lake to catch a fish, I can perfectly cast a round net, so that there are fish there, I can slowly pull it. There are techniques of pulling, there are techniques of keeping together, there are techniques to prevent yourself from getting hurt by the barb of the fish. For example, you have some fish that have stings. All those things are learning skills that you develop from the basic idea of attention span. So very, very important for parents is to nurture your child in a way through stimulation of visual stimulation, auditory stimulation, kinesthetic, using all the sense of sight, smell, and all the whole brain activity between the left brain and right brain, that inshallah, if you understand this technique in terms of developing attention span, you can develop a very good future for that child in whatever skills area that they may love. They may love, for example, as I say, carpentry, or they may love poetry, something very, very, with words, playing with words. They may love music, they may love studies of philosophy at a later stage. But all that comes about because you must have the patience and the attention span to really study. For example, if you want to learn the philosophy of, for example, consciousness, which is I'm not interested now. So I have to go and read books on the metaphysics of Islam, the nature of consciousness, and so on. But that requires a lot of discipline, and that discipline can come about only when you have the joy of learning. Remember this word, the joy of learning. Your attention span can only come when the reward is internalized. At the children's stage, it is the parents that gives them the stimulus, the reward, the conditioning towards achievement, towards goodness. But at a later stage, when you become self-actualized, it is the nature of your inner speech. What does your inner speech says? And this I will cover later on in the other future areas in which how we harness our inner capability to feel satisfied by our inner speech, which I have mentioned in the past, but today, in a future video, I will explain to you this detail. So remember, the whole game of developing attention span for the moment the baby is born until she is a child, if she has, especially if she or he has learning difficulties, it is important that intervention comes very much early, so that even if a child is not normal in the sense of having a lower IQ or lower attention span, if you intervene early, she can be normal and can achieve success in whatever vocation that is suitable for them, in the way that is blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the way they can fulfill their role, being the custodian, being the vicegerent of Allah, being the caliph of Allah on this earth, always striving to make themselves good, to be an achiever, to help others to be good, and making the world good, inshallah.